Hey guys, OG Albine here, bringing you guys another Draft League movie. Today, we're going all the way down to Little Cup. For those of you who are new to the channel, maybe, and you don't know, I'm a big Little Cup guy. I love Little Cup Draft League. I played a lot of Little Cup Draft in the last 2 generations. There hasn't been as much of it this gen because Paldeadex Little Cup kind of sucks, in my opinion, with no berry juice. But I played a couple months ago. This is an old league, to be honest. I played in a Little Cup league called the Dojo, run by my friend Josh, Ultra Player, as well as in Versify. And I had a really fun team and a really fun run, and I wanted to, show you guys a run. I even have a Little Cup logo up there. I don't use it very often because I'm not playing as much Little Cup. But look, it's the Miami Bagon. It's a little throwback to the Miami Mints. But yeah, if you guys are excited for this Little Cup movie and you want to see more Little Cup content in the future, let me know. It's never something I'm opposed to doing on Wi-Fi and uploading a Little Cup League, because Little Cup Draft League is a lot of fun. It's very, very offensive. I have a video on the channel as like kind of a guide to Little Cup Draft if you ever want to check that out. It kind of lets you know, what you should be looking to draft, what, common metagame trends are, things like that. So, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, with that being said, I'm going to take the logo off the screen. Actually, let's move it a little bit higher. We're going to leave it on the screen for now, just because I like it so much, and it's a cool little logo. And we'll jump into our team. So, first up, you can see on our screen, we have Zorua-Hisui. Now, with Zorua, it was really just a kind of a matter of, it was a mon I wanted to try a lot. Back in Generation 8, I used regular Zorua to a decent extent, and I really enjoyed it. In a team tour, Clash of Kings, that has Little Cup as one of its formats, one of my teammates, Legit, who is an incredible Pokemon player, but Little Cup player as well, used Zorua to an incredible degree. However, Zorua-Hisui is just a better version of it, right? It has a pretty solid speed tier, hitting 17, meaning it's decently fast for an offensive Pokemon. You see, 85 special attack and 60 attack, very, very strong, alongside an incredible dual stab combination. Ghost is not very common in Little Cup, and it's very, very strong, but normal is also great. You'd think it doesn't have great normal coverage, but you'll see something that does have access to, which I think is really important, is going to be Terra Blast. We can obviously use Terra Blast without tearing. There's no Terra allowed in this league. No Terra in Little Cup leagues typically. But we can use Terra Blast as a stab move for 80 base power, hitting things really, really hard, alongside moves like Shadow Ball, alongside moves like Knockoff, which is an incredible tool in Little Cup as we force a switch, knock off something's item, and you also see its good coverage alongside other Pokemon on our team that, really, really appreciate their answers being knocked off. Moves like Shadow Sneak, moves like Will-O-Wisp, U-Turn, Taunt, Sludge Bomb is a great option. Nasty Plot even, and we even get moves like, what do you call it? We have our Bitter Malice signature move, and we have Burning Jealousy as fire coverage. But where Zorua's real strengths come in is not only is it great offensively, not only does it have one weakness defensively and have a good couple of immunities, it is also really, really good at disguising itself as other Pokemon to afford it free switch-ins, and free opportunities to throw strong attacks because they go into the wrong check, or really, really open up the teammate is disguised at. And we'll kind of segue that with going into Big Tyrant here next. Now, if you see Tyrant's biggest, one of Tyrant's big weaknesses is going to be fighting types. Fightings are very, very common in Little Cup, and they're going to be able to switch into that Rock Stab pretty darn comfortably. But with our illusion typing, or illusion ability allowing us to disguise as a Tyrant potentially, we might, 1, bait a fighting type into Zorua, which is immune, but 2, get off some crazy damage into the fighting type, or Will-O-Wisp, or Extrasensory, or Shadow Ball, whatever it might be. Zorua is going to pair really well with a lot of the Pokemon on our team. That's kind of like a theme on this draft that I wanted to kind of drive home. That our goal was going to be to, 1, draft a cohesive team, but also draft a bunch of Pokemon that Zorua loves being disguised as. And you're going to see in all of our games, there's going to be at least one thing. Obviously, Tyrant on its own is incredible. It's a Pokemon I've loved using Little Cup, and it's a Pokemon I would draft in round 1, personally. But 2 great abilities in both Strong Jaw and Sturdy. Sturdy alongside Berry Juice if we do not have Rock Step, and we'll grab a Spinner here soon, is going to allow us to basically get a full heal back up to full. We take a super effective attack, we get back up to full, which can be incredible alongside Dragon Dance, or even alongside Rock Polish. However, very often you'll see Rock Polish variants rock out with Strong Jaw sets, alongside a good elemental coverage, Psychic Fangs, Crunch, things of the sort, really, really widening up this Pokemon's offensive move pool, alongside moves that are against, like Close Combat, Earthquake, Rock Blast, which is incredible in Little Cup, being that it's a multi-hit move. So, really, there's a ton of tools that Tyrant gets, alongside also being pretty darn bulky, right? With an Eviolite, this serves as a very solid flying resist. It's also a great stealth rocker if need be in the matchup. I've definitely run defensive rest talk Tyrants before because it works in the format, right? So, honestly, a really, really incredible Pokemon, something that I really like, and something I think fits really well with Zorua. Now, not only does Tyrant not appreciate rocks because of sturdy, but Zorua also does not appreciate rocks because once rocks go up, it's harder to disguise as other Pokemon that might not be neutral to rocks. And in fact, there's 2 Pokemon after this that Zorua can definitely disguise itself as that can't do so when there are hazards up. So it really only limits us to lead. So because of that, I wanted to have reliable hazard removal. I wanted to get a good water type. My boy Squirtle had to come up next. I mean, you probably saw him in the thumbnail. I love this guy. He's cute as hell. And Kurt made the thumbnail, so Kurt gets to pick thumbnail guys, and it's his favorite mon. But outside of that, it's still incredible, right? Pretty mediocre stat spread-wise, but with an Eviolite very bulky, it can function as that, like, you know, bulky water defensive pivot with Flip Turn, Scald, Ice Beam, Rapid Spin, maybe a Yawn tucked in there, Aqua Jet for priority, which priority is always a good thing. But we also always have the option of those Shell Smash variants alongside some pretty incredible coverage, to be completely honest, making this Pokemon a really, really strong endgame sweeper in its own right. So I think that's a really cool aspect of Squirtle. I've always loved using in the past. It's a Pokemon that people either love or hate in Little Cup. I personally love Squirtle. I think it's a really incredible Pokemon. Now, we were talking before, again, about Pokemon that Zorua loves disguising as, and one of these is going to be Big Croagunk. Now, the reason that I think that Zorua and Croagunk kind of fit together really, really well, just like mac and cheese, is going to be Croagunk's big resistance to dark types in a Pokemon that, in the sense that it doesn't draw in any stray knockoffs, typically. If something comes in to revenge a Croagunk, it's probably not clicking a dark move, which means that something like Zorua is going to be in a much better spot, because it's not going to die, because it's not always going to immediately die, because it's not getting hit super effectively. It's not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world, so that's nice. But on top of that, Croagunk on its own, very, very solid Pokemon. Really helps out with bulky steals, which I think this team doesn't really appreciate. Most rock resist in general, Croagunk is going to deal with pretty darn well, as well as the random opposing fairies. Maybe we don't switch into them super well, but we definitely punish them really well. We can go physical or special with 61 both of our attacks, which is awesome. And we are mediocre speed-wise, but we do have Fake Out, Bullet Punch, and Sucker Punch. Again, priority is always going to be incredible in Little Cup. We can go ahead and click a really strong Bulk Up set. We can be Nasty Plot pretty comfortably, as well as Vacuum Wave. We also get Knockoff, which is cool coverage alongside Zorua, because they're both non-stab moves, and they both have 60 and 61 attacks. So those rolls are going to overlap a lot. If our disguise isn't busted, very often we're going to be able to disguise ourselves as Zorua still, as we knock off pretending to be Croagunk, or vice versa. The opponent might think that we're Zorua, right? So lots of mind games. I think there's a lot of cool, small dynamics that go together with this. It's also a Pokemon that really bullies bulky waters, with Dry Skin as an ability. Does gain a fire weakness, but we got Big Squirtle and Tyrant for that. Plus, fires aren't super, super common. So, yeah, it's awesome. Next up, we have one of my personal favorite Little Cup Pokemon. There's going to be Big Sandile here. Now, Sandile does not get knockoff like a Big Body Crocodile. However, as much as I love Crocodile, I love Sandile just as much in Little Cup. It's another Pokemon I've had incredible success with, whether it be as a Choice Scarf Moxie Sweeper, or as an Intimidate Berry Juicing Rocker, or Eviolite Rocker. It's going to be really solid in that regard. Earthquake, Crunch, Rock Move, Stealth Rock. Really all you need. We have coverage like Aqua Tail, which is pretty cool. I don't believe we're allowed to pursue, but we can fast taunt, which is also really awesome. And honestly, lead counter sets are things that I've run very often in the past, alongside Berry Juice. I think we do it in this league in particular. I'm not 100% sure if it works or not, but I feel like I remember building that a couple months ago. Overall, really solid Pokemon. Again, another Pokemon with 17 speed, so decently fast in its own right. Our team is a bit slow right now, having 2 Pokemon at 17 with a plus nature being our fastest, but it's something that we can mitigate here in a little bit. Next up, I drafted Chespin. 2 reasons I drafted Chespin. One is our ground weakness. We are very, very weak to ground at the moment. Do not have a switch into ground types. So, I want something very, very bulky and reliable that could do so. The next thing that Chespin offers me is going to be Spikes. Now, while I don't think that setting up Hazard stack is super viable in Little Cup, I think having 1 Hazard up is almost a requirement just to break Stardies and Sashes. And there's also definitely positions where getting up a Spike and Rocks is very, very good, especially alongside some of the Pokemon we've already drafted and some of the Pokemon we are going to draft in a little bit here. It's a grass that doesn't like switching in Scald, which is a little bit annoying, but we do have Croagunk for that. Making it to where the Chespin can pivot on some of them depending on the turn, or just doesn't need to because we have Croagunk, and Croagunk's going to come to most games, to be completely honest. So, yeah, just a good mid-tier ground resist, does its job well for us. Next up, I grab Voltorb. It needs some speed. This is about as fast as it gets in Little Cup. Now, Voltorb doesn't have its downsides. The main thing is going to be its move pool. His 20 speed, which is incredible. 20 speed is a very, very elite group of Pokemon. But again, the only issue is going to be its huge lack of coverage. And unfortunately, we are not allowed to run Hidden Power in this league, so that means no Hidden Power Ice or Grass. That means if there is a solid ground, we're going to have trouble with Voltorb. One benefit to it, though, is going to be Boom, right? We can very often throw off a really strong explosion. Again, in Little Cup, 30 attacks, not that much, but nothing's bulky, right? So if we're rocking with a max attack Boom, I mean, what do we hit at level with IVs? Yeah, only 11 attack without a plus nature, but again, 12 attack. I lied. Look at that. Not great, to be completely honest. But it's still a really strong explosion, and it maintains initiative and sets tempo. And Little Cup, like I said, is incredibly offensive. So getting a free switch into something is always going to be cool. Really fast Taunter, can throw strong foul plays as well, which is pretty cool. As well as taunting, thunder waving, all that good stuff, and volting around. It can even teleport if we're feeling extra shicey, but probably not. Another thing I really like for this thing is going to be another flying resist. I want to take pressure off of Tyrant. Don't want to use Tyrant as my good bird switching all the time, especially if they get knockoff or if they get fighting coverage or ground coverage, right? So what Voltorb will do is not only resist flying, right, but alongside that, it'll have static, really punishing those brave birding Pokemon or those U-turning Pokemon, right? Again, Little Cup is so momentum based. Being able to bait a status on those guys like that is incredible. Speaking of flyers, we got ours in Starly. What I really like about Starly for this team is it gives us another really good Scarfer. Right now, we really only had Sandile as a reliable, great choice Scarfer. Starly is also that. With Reckless, Brave Bird, and Double Edge, it is incredibly strong. No, it does not get close combat. However, there's not a lot of rocks and steals in Little Cup, and they don't have reliable recovery. You U-turn a couple times and rocks are up, they're in range of Double Edge, or at least 2 Double Edges, you know, on the switch-in, which is really cool. It has a really strong quick attack as well, so like Silph Scarf or Life Orb sets are also very viable, depending on how fast the opposing team is. And honestly, it's just a very solid and strong Pokemon. Not very versatile, but it is going to come in. It's going to click a Reckless Brave Bird and Double Edge, maybe a priority quick attack that's Stab, and pick off some big threats for us, which is really nice. Next up, showing up a little bit of the defenses, having us with bulky grasses alongside Starly, helping us with, giving us another ice resist and kind of helping our hail matchup, which is really bad, or our snow matchup, I guess now, is going to be Growlithe. There wasn't much else in this point tier that really caught my eye or any combinations I really wanted, so I ended up going Growlithe. Gives me Intim, so double Intim alongside Sandile. Another thing it really gives me is going to be a Fairy resist, right? And that's actually kind of the main reason we ended up drafting it. At this point, our Poison doesn't resist Fairy. Our whole team gets smoked by a good offensive Fairy, so we need to be really careful about that. Growlithe is going to give me that. Gives me reliable recovery in Morning Sun. Gives me Will-O-Wisp, Flabellous, close combat hits like the entire metagame really hard. And yeah, he's here to do his job and do it well. Love me some Growlithe. Has some sneaky good offensive matchups. And lastly, we got another spinner, decently physically defensive Pokemon. Really all we could get at the price point that we had left. I think it was like 2 or 3 points, whatever it was. It was Bergmite. I won't lie to you, I don't think Bergmite is a great Pokemon. But it doesn't even get Shard. Does it, guys? Shard? It doesn't. But I mean, with Sturdy, something that's really nice, having a sturdy Pokemon, putting it alongside like a heavy duty boots is always going to give me a catch one check to something if I really need it. I can also do the same thing with Tyrant, but if I want to use Tyrant a little bit differently, or maybe Tyrant isn't coming or has to, you know, be used differently in the matchup, like we said, I can very viably run like a max attack Adamant Bergmite, 31, Adamant, all the way up at 17 attack. I mean, that's really not bad. That, alongside Rapid Spin, gives me an emergency Rapid Spin if I guaranteed need it. So, honestly, not the worst Pokemon you could get in the world. Does it get Earthquake? Ground coverage? It doesn't get any ground coverage, does it? Oh no, it gets both those. See, not bad coverage. I mean, it's 60 base power, but if we're Adamant max attack, and especially if we're speedy, because we're going boot sturdy and we're just supposed to live that one hit, hey, we'll be fastening some things at -1. So, that's the joys of Little Cup. Yeah, if you hit 11 or below, or you hit 13, or yeah, or if you hit 12 or below, and we're going jolly, might get smoked by a Bergmite. But yeah, that's basically going to be the squad. I'll be right back with some battles. Alrighty guys, week 1, we went against Gammon. You can see he has a pretty scary team. We have some Sun offense here with Drillbur, Graveyard, Dwebble, Makuhita, Vulpix, and Bulbasaur. Let's look at the squad that we're bringing really quick. We have a Lumberry Tyrant here with strong draws durability, Rock Blast, Psychic Fangs, Ice Fang, and Rock Polish. Really strong win con in this game, potentially, depending on how things go. Strong draw, Psychic Fangs, and Ice Fang is really strong coverage here. Ice Fang really nukes through Drillbur pretty well, as well as Psychic Fangs for the Bulbasaur. Rock Blast hits literally everything else. And Psychic Fangs is really, really nice for Makuhita, obviously, which would be a pretty good check twist with an Eevee-like. So that's obviously very nice. We have Zorua-Hisui. We are going to go with a Life Orb set. Very often we'll be going with Life Orb variants. We have Shadow Ball, Sneak, Terra Blast, and Will-O-Wisp. Pretty darn simple set. Hits the entire team incredibly, incredibly hard. And yeah, it does a lot of damage here. Then we have our Squirtle. We're rocking out with a pretty physically defensive Berry Juice set with Flip Turn, Aqua Jet, Rapid Spin, and Brick Break. Brick Break was for a Heliop tile that was left at home. Obviously, we can hit that thing pretty decently hard and 2-hit KO most non-Eevee-like variants. Otherwise, we are Flip Turn to grab momentum, Aqua Jet to pick off some weakened threats, and Rapid Spin just to keep hazards off the field. Our second Berry Juicer, by the way, I totally forgot to mention too, there is an item clause in Little Cup. There typically is going to be 2 items, or 2 of any item per team. So we only can have 2 Berry Juicers, and this is going to be our second in Sandile with Earthquake, Stealth Rock, Taunt, and Crunch. Again, Sandile, maybe not great defensively, but offensively is always going to be really strong into the Sun teams, and with Intimidate and Berry Juice, we can always pivot into Drillbur once, which is also pretty nice. Then we have a Growlithe. We're Eevee-Light on this set with a lot of Spadef, but we're pretty offensive as well with Flare Blitz, Morning Sun, Will-O-Wisp, and Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs is nice for a thick, fat Makuhita. Otherwise, there's not really a fire resist on this team. Vulpix gets 2 KO'd unless it's really bulky. So that's obviously really nice. Then lastly, a Scarfer in Starly, Double Edge, U-Turn, Brave Bird, and then Quick Attack is our 4th, just because like if we're in Sun and we need to pick off something weakened that we're not faster than, like a Bulbasaur, we can always pick it off with a Quick Attack, which is nice. That being said, we are going to jump into the game immediately. We are going to see a lead Dwebble into our Squirtle. I'm completely fine with this lead. This is actually great positioning for me. What I can do from here is I can immediately spin. I know I'm going to be slower. And then I can, potentially Flip Turn and knock it out depending on the spread. Or I can just double Aqua Jet. I can continue to spin until it's in range. But regardless, spin is nice here because it's going to allow me to get speed initiative on anything that pivots in. So I believe I do spin immediately on Makuhita. It would have been nice to just Flip Turn, but I also don't want to catch that thing staying in and just proccing it sturdy, getting back up the full and getting nothing out of the turn. So I'm fine with taking a little bit slower of momentum here. Plus, getting chip on Makuhita, this thing's already in range of Tyrant now. So that's great. I'm going to immediately get out into Growlithe right here. We are going to be Flash Fire, I believe, on this variant. It looks like. Did I mean to be Flash Fire? Did I mean to be Flash Fire? Honestly, I don't remember. Well, regardless, we're Flash Fire now. We do unfortunately lose our Eevee-Light, but again, for a ton of damage on Makuhita, we did get low rolled on that. However, not the end of the world because we also get very lucky and dodge a Rock Tomb here as we could pick this thing off with a Flare Blitz. So I'll take a low roll into a Flare Blitz in order to completely dodge a Rock Tomb that might have killed us. Out comes Drillbur next as we do pivot back into Squirtle. Thanks to our Berry Juice, we're always going to get back up to full. And that's something that I mentioned too about Little Cup is, again, this is kind of how these games are played. Very, very offensively. Drillbur 2-hit KOs everything on my team. I just need to limit its amount of switch-ins and make sure I have pivots and ways of revenging it. So, because of that, we're going to be able to get off a nice and strong Flip Turn into this guy here. Vulpix is going to come in and take 57, so because it's not Berry Juice, that's unrecoverable, which is incredible. I'm going to get out into Sandile here. I really don't expect this to be Scarf Vulpix, but 1, they have to risk that and lose their Sun. And 2, if they're not, they don't know that I'm not Scarf. So I feel pretty comfortable about this aggressive Sandile. Plus, I don't feel like they can really go hard into this Dribble right here. It's going to put them in a bad spot. We're going to go ahead and click a nice and strong EQ on this Dwebble coming in. We're going to taunt it because I don't want rocks going up on my side as I can't guarantee to spin with the Graveyard up. Then I'm going to elect to get up my own rocks because unless that's Boots Vulpix, which we'll see soon if it even can be, if it's not Heat Rock, we're going to put that thing in a pretty terrible spot and really only let it switch in one more time, which is awesome. We are going to see this Dwebble click X Scissor on our Squirtle. I know I don't pop Sturdy here with this Flip Turn, so it allowed me to gain initiative as well as, put them in a tough spot. And from here, I get out into my Starly, or as they think, my Starly. The reason I disguised as Starly here is because there were a lot of positions where Starly would potentially force in Graveyard. And if Graveyard comes in on a Shadow Ball, it dies. So I am just going to go into Starly. Unfortunately for me, they do sack this Dwebble, so they're going to see the 1 that I'm Starly, or not Starly, and 2 that I'm Life Orb, so good to know. Out comes Vulpix right here, just probably risking a speed tie as well as getting up the Sun for the Bulbasaur, but thankfully, Life Orb Sneak is more than enough to pick this off, so we do have to contend with, let's see, is there Sun after this? No. So it probably was potentially like a Scarf Vulpix, which means we do have to deal with Sun for just a little bit, but we've limited that and stopped it immediately, right? There's only 4 more turns of it. From here, we do kind of put ourselves in a tough position into this Bulbasaur. We have to make sure we keep app checks around. We are going to make the pivot into Growlithe as we can still eat 1 Life Orb, Solar Beam, which is obviously very, very nice. Afterwards, though, we are going to go down to another, and since we're in range of anything, we can't really pivot around the attack, so the Life Orb Bulbasaur is going to do a lot of damage to the squad here. We go on to our actual Starly here, and I'm going to pivot into Tyrant. The reason I pivot into Tyrant is because while I might be sacking it, it doesn't really have much of a position to win anymore. Graveyard's too healthy, we don't have Crunch. Drillbur's too healthy, we don't have Crunch. Ice Fang doesn't kill from here, we're not faster. And Bulbasaur is faster, right? So I figured that pivoting the Tyrant on a Sludge Bomb, or in this case, a Weather Ball if they have it, is really nice for me, because I'm going to be able to waste this last turn of Sun, and while I do sack off my Tyrant, I'm going to put myself in a position to maintain initiative and get into a Pokemon that I want to next, which is going to be my Starly. There is no Brave Bird resist on this team. We're just going to go ahead and click the button. Out comes Graveyard right here, as I believe I do sack off my Squirtle. A Crunch is going to come out. I don't know if that was its best way of hitting me or if it's just a mid-ground into the Squirtle. And Aqua Jet for a little bit of chip here, and get into my, what do you call it, my Zorua? I'm going to go ahead and click Shadow Ball right here, and only do 59, showing that this thing is definitely going to be an Eviolite variant, which means that my Shadow Sneak will not pick it off. So right here, I'm putting in an uncomfortable position, right? I'm put in a spot where if my opponent decides to Rock Slide and catches my Starly, I'm in a pretty tough position if I go hard into Starly, where Starly does seem very, very strong here. Actually, let me think about this a little bit. I don't want to give you guys shitty commentary. I'm trying to think if what I did right here was the correct play, because I'm going to end up staying with my Zorua. Let's kind of look at it critically. If I lose this speed tie, do I immediately lose the game? I don't think so. I don't know if the Graveyard... It depends on if the Graveyard had Ice Fang or not. So I think maybe what my best play to do was go into Starly, but the way I saw it was... No, I think it was fine, because I think I would have had to risk a speed tie regardless if they caught me going into Starly. And this gives me an option if they aren't, like, Ice Fang on their Graveyard. Yeah, so I think this is fine. I'm going to stay in, risk the speed tie, as you can tell by my very expert commentary on the game I played in April. I am going to pick this thing off, win the speed tie, and that secures the game, right? Graveyard cannot speed me, can't Shadow Sneak me because I'm a normal type, and Zorua is going to pick up a ton. And we're able to pick up a nice dub here against Gammon, who's a really, really solid little cup player. So, start the season off on the right foot. Let's jump into the next one. Alrighty, game 2, or week 2, we're up against Peachy here. You can see pretty scary sticky web offense. Things like Frillish, Cubone, which I maybe disrespected a little bit. We'll talk about it. Cutie Fly, which is a big threat to our squad. Houndour, which is a huge threat to our squad. Tortuga, and Apom. Now, let's take a look at the team that we're rocking with this week. Really quick, just so you get a little context and method to the madness. We have a Heavy Duty Boots Tyrant with Sturdy, Rock Blast, Dragon Dance, Crunch, and Protect. Pretty simple set this week, honestly. If you look at my opponent's team, the combination of Rock Blast plus Crunch hits everything pretty darn hard. The things that we need to get chip on prior, and things like Tortuga, things like Cubone, but if we can, we're going to be in a good spot. Another reason I like Boot Sturdy is not only to guarantee our Sturdy, but also avoid getting Sticky Web dropped, which is great. Protect is going to be for fake outs from things like Apom, so that we don't, get picked off at 1 HP / lose our Sturdy at full HP. So that's obviously nice. Then we have a Berry Juice Squirtle. Pretty physically defensive. We're Scald, Rapid Spin, Yawn, and Flip Turn. The reason we're Yawn is because I really need to catch that, that Frillish on the switch in. If I want to be able to get away hazards, I can either Yawn and have, it put to sleep. Peach is going to have to decide, do I want to go to bed, or do I want to prevent, potential webs and rocks from being spun away. So that's kind of the idea behind Squirtle there. Once again, Life Orb, Zorua-Hisui, Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak, Terra Blast, Extra Sensory. Extra Sensory hit Fungus and Mankey, which were on the bench. 2 Pokemon I was very, very scared of. In particular, Mankey terrified me. Then we have Focus Sash lead Sandile with Intimidate, Crunch, Earthquake, Stealth Rock, and Rock Slide. Just 4 attacks. Sash does a lot of damage. Can stay in on a lead Cutie Fly and Rock Slide, or Rock Slide EQ, and pick it off if it's like a Sash variant or something. Then we are going to rock out with our Eviolite Croagunk. Really strong Pokemon in this game, especially into that double water. Dry Skin with Focus Blast, Vacuum Wave, Sludge Wave, and Dark Pulse. Vacuum Wave is also incredible for Pokemon like Houndour, Tortuga, and Apom. And really just our dual stabs hits this team very, very hard. Then we also have an Eviolite Growlithe here with Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, Close Combat, and Morning Sun. yeah, with that being said, though, let's go ahead and jump on into the battle itself. We are going to see lead Cubone into our lead Sandile. We do intimidate it immediately, which is very nice. I'm just going to Rocks Up. I want my Rocks Up there to stay. As Earthquake at -1 does 90%. I understand I'm not bulky, but it did 90. That's very, very not good. Very bad. Out comes Cutiefly next. It's also going to show to not be Boots, so despite this EQ being resisted, it's still going to do a decent amount of damage, which we'll definitely take. We're going to go down to a Moonblast here, but I didn't really have a great switch into this guy. We're going to go ahead and go into our Growlithe right here, as it is going to be my main Fairy Resist. Pick this off with a Flare Blitz as Peachy elects to sack it off and go for Sticky Web, which seems like a waste, but really not that much, because it's going to be really difficult for me to spin these away with Frillish, and it gives them an incredible speed advantage throughout the rest of this game. So, yeah. Out comes Apom next. I believe I do just stay in. I take a Fake Out really quick from this guy. It shows to not be Life Orb, which is good information. And then I am going to pivot into Squirtle here on a Fury Swipes, which is really nice, because this is going to actually just be able to pop my juice, provided they get 4 hits or more, which they do. So that's obviously really nice. Now, from here, there's 2 options. I either try to spin away these hazards, or I yawn the Frillish from the switch in so I can spin away them after. I really didn't think that my opponent would just stay in and sack off the Apom or risk a burn or whatever it may be, or just allow me to spin. So I end up going for yawn this turn, as my opponent unfortunately goes for a knockoff. Catches me there, maybe expecting some kind of double. I'm not 100% sure. But I do click yawn this first turn, as my opponent is going to pivot out into Frillish. Hindsight, yawning again is sorry, I thought I didn't yawn again. I was like, yawning again is what we're going to do to catch this Squirtle, which is nice. Psychic is going to come out, as I do elect Rapid Spin, thinking maybe they're going to want to save this and get away with its webs, but they make a good play and they're going to stay in, ensuring that I can't spin away these hazards. I'm going to go into Growlithe, expecting them to potentially pivot out into something like, what am I expecting them to pivot out into? Maybe it was just a sack? Honestly, I'm not sure. This game was a blur. But they're going to pivot out into Apon right here, as I do, no. Guys, I watched this game before. I just broke my own ankles. So Peachy makes a very good play here. I go into Growlithe. It's kind of telegraphing it a little bit, but I go into Growlithe from the Frillish, and in my head I'm like, oh, they do that. Wild Charge, I guess. It's because I was trying to bait it to stay in and get off a Shadow Ball on it and kill it. But Peachy's going to make a very, very good play. Pivot onto Apom, not really, falling for my my tricks there. As I am going to pivot into Squirtle and just sack it off. I don't see a position where I ever get off this Rapid Spin. So we're just going to get out of it right now. We're going to get a free switch and a Croagunk right here. And we definitely take a Fury Swipes here and can just blow this thing up with a Focus Blast. So we do take a Fury Swipes to the face right here. 3, 4, and 5. Unfortunately bringing us very low as we miss a Focus Blast, which is very bad. I'm definitely upset about that. I Vacuum Wave, and it's supposed to be Chople, so it probably would have lived that Focus Blast, but not Focus Blast into Chople, or into Vacuum Wave, that's for sure. So unfortunately, we don't do too much, only 26% with that Vacuum Wave. However, we dodge the Fury Swipes, which is great. I'm like, okay, we're going to Vacuum Wave again. Maybe we don't get the KO that we should have, but pretty good justice here. We're going to sack this guy off to another Fury Swipe. Nope, we are not, as we do live both those, which is pretty darn funny. And we knock out the Apom. So, nice justice there. That's for sure. Out comes this Cubone. I'm going to sack off my Growlithe just to get an Intimidate onto it, which is obviously very, very nice for me. Get out into my Croagunk, just to see if I can put some damage on this guy, or I'm going to get out into my Zorua just to try and put some damage onto this guy and anything else in the back. I actually end up Terra Blasting, expecting it to not be a Frillish Switch in ever, because it's just kind of sacking it off, right? And Terra Blast does just knock out Houndour from full, which is great. So right here, I'm in an okay position. The only issue is I don't have a Cubone answer. I am just going to go ahead and Shadow Sneak, do as much damage as humanly possible to this thing. Nice little 24%. And kind of go from there. Zorua is going to just die to an EQ. My play from here is to go into Tyrant, DD, and get a Crunch Crit. If I do that, then there's actually a pretty real possibility that we win this game in conjunction with Croagunk in the back. Unfortunately, my opponent brings a cool attack and is Bone Rush. We're also not, what do you call it? Berry Juice, so we're not going to live that, unfortunately, and we're going to get picked off by this Cubone and cleaned up by it. I didn't bring Ground Resist, and that's on me. I mean, double Ground Move just absolutely rolled me there. There was never another click that needed to be had. Didn't bring Ground Resist nor Immunity. Not necessarily switched in, but at least maybe didn't get me swept by this, unfortunately. So, we're going to drop to 1-1. Good game from Peachy. And again, just got the turns right with keeping the webs up. I didn't think they'd stay in with the Cutiefly. And that one turn kind of just sealed my fate against this Cubone. It was really just a matter of time until it came in and swept me for good. So, what can you do? On to week 3. Already week 3, we're rolling into Granky, and Granky has a pretty terrifying team with like Grookey, Wooper, Stunky, Quaxly, or Quaxly? Yeah, that's his name. Elekid, and Clink. Also some big threats on the bench, namely being things like the Trico that didn't end up coming at all, as well as Larvesta. So some pretty scary Pokemon that just weren't brought due to matchup and things of the sort. However, that being said, let's look into the team that we're rocking out with. You can see first up we do have Big Tyrant here, Rock Blast, Close Combat, Dragon Dance, and Ironhead. There's also a Snubble on the bench, I believe. So Ironhead to let me hit that guy decently hard. Rock Blast and Close Combat hit pretty much everything else. We do have to get rid of Wooper before this wins, or get in range of Close Combat. Then we have a Life Orb, Hisui, Zoroark, Zorua. Again, pretty tried and true so far up to this point with Terra Blast, Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak, and Will-O-Wisp. Nice mixed attacker. Sneak is great for picking off threats, and Terra Blast, Shadow Ball hits the entire team neutrally or super effectively, which is always going to be great. Then we have a very physically defensive Growlithe, Flamethrower, Morning Sun, Will-O-Wisp, and Roar. Roar is to force things out, Will-O-Wisp to burn things if need be, and yeah, puts us in a pretty decent spot. And we have an Eevee like Croagunk with Focus Blast, Nasty Plot, Vacuum Wave, and Sludge Wave. Just decently strong Pokemon here in general. We're going to check things like Grookey, soft check things like Stunky, we can hit him hard with Focus Blast, soft check things like Quaxly, etc. We have our lead in a Focus Sat, or a Berry Juice Intimidate counter Sandile with Earthquake, counter Stealth Rock, and Crunch. Very defensive set. Hopefully on lead can pick something off with a counter. Then we have a really cool set that doesn't end up coming to fruition because of my opponent's team, but we had a Custap Berry, Squirtle with Shell Smash. We have Surf, Ice Beam, Shell Smash, and Endure. Look at my opponent's entire team. It gets absolutely rocked by a +2 Squirtle, but one of the ways that he could have played around it was setting terrain with Grookey and then going into an unburdened Trico. What we could do is we can Endure, pop our Custap Berry, and either force him out as he's expecting Custap to kill him, which is totally fine. He can switch out. If he stays in, he dies to +2 Ice Beam. If he switches out and switches back in, no more unburdened. So it doesn't matter if he switches out. We're faster than everything at that point too, which is really nice. It also helps in the event of like a Starfail the Kid or something like that, right? I'm not sure if that actually outspeeds us, but regardless, something to keep in mind. Unfortunately, the scenario that we had in mind doesn't really come into play here because there is no Trico, but pretty cool nonetheless. And I wanted to show it off because I thought it was cool crap. Alright, I actually had to like look over it in between recording these battles. I'm like, why the hell was I Custap again? It doesn't work for anything on this team. Like, there's no reason. But now I get it. Alrighty, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the battle. We are going to go ahead and lead off with our Sandile right here. Into this Grookey, and again, I'm not going to expect this thing to want to stay in. There is a chance that Woodhammer can kill me, depending on how offensive he is. But I don't think Woodhammer is really in his best interest because he just loses a lot of momentum. Doesn't really appreciate Growlithe. I mean, there's things like Wooper, but if it takes a burn, it becomes considerably less scary and gets chipped down pretty well throughout the course of the game. And I think Willow is a pretty obvious bring here. It just helps a lot of momentum staying in and clicking Woodhammer as I get to go free Growlithe, right? Or even free Croagunk, which doesn't have a lot of switch-ins on this team, right? Look at Focus Blast and Sludge Wave. Unresisted. So I'm actually going to stay in encounter expecting a U-turn right here. I know I can guarantee live any U-turn very comfortably and do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, we get low rolled right there. If he got a little bit higher of a roll right there, one, it would have popped our Berry Juice, and two, we probably would have killed this Wooper from full. And this is one of the main stopgaps to Tyrant, to Squirtle, to a bunch of Pokemon on this team. So I would have loved to kill this thing from full. Unfortunately, we don't. Bring it to 83. Keeping it nice and low, at least, which is always going to be very nice, but not quite killing it. Now, I could rock right here, expecting, the Grookey to come out and then to save this, but I don't want to let this thing recover for no reason. And if Granky doesn't want to switch in on a crunch, that's not a good, and then I just let it recover up for full. That's just a terrible trade for me. And there's not a great switch into crunch regardless, right? So I am just going to go ahead and click said crunch. Grookey does come back out, but that's 59% on Grookey, which is great. We also find out that it's juice, so we pop its item and immediately know what it is. So again, great information. We also have to be careful about acrobatics on our Croagunk now, because we know that it is, a juice variant. So and something to keep in mind. We do see Growlithe come out here on a Woodhammer. Keep in mind, too, Grassy Glide is banned on Grookey and Little Cup Leagues very often, and this is no, exception. So we are going to get out into our Growlithe. I believe I do just go ahead and Flamethrower here. There's not a Flamethrower switch in on this team anymore outside of Quaxly. And again, Willow's pretty scary. I wanted to be able to guarantee 2-hit kill like this Wooper if it was like a weird Spread F set. Regardless, I think I would have been fine. I am just going to go ahead and hit this thing for 21. pick it off, knock it out. Out comes Stunky next. I'm going to make a pivot through Sandile here, as we do see a knockoff. Again, knockoff's a bit unfortunate. We don't get our juice back, obviously, because it's going to get knocked off. But from here, the only thing that kills me is going to be a Play Rough. So I see this as a pretty cool opportunity to pivot through my Croagunk without letting it get knocked off. Which seems weird to, like, pivot through the move that Croagunk would have resisted into a neutral move. But this is -1. And I don't lose my Eviolite, which I think my Eviolite is very important because it helps me check things like Quaxly and Grookey. I am just going to go ahead and Focus Blast immediately on this Quaxly switch-in, do 62%, and then just pick it off with a Sludge Wave afterwards. So down goes a big threat into the squad. Out comes Elekid. I'm going to pivot through Sandile, expecting a potential Psychic, being that she came in on Croagunk. However, Grookey makes a good play, clicks a mid-ground Ice Punch, which would have done a lot of damage to Croagunk, or not a lot. It wouldn't have killed Croagunk, but it doesn't allow this in for free. That also tells me that he's very likely to be a choice variant, because I don't think you need to make that position otherwise, because you know my Sandile isn't Scarf. So, just something to keep in mind. I'm going to go into Tyrant, or not Tyrant. I almost got myself again. I'm going to go out into my Zorua, because if I'm ranking this position, I want to break Tyrant sturdy, and if it's being given to me, you're always going to take it. Plus, there's always the freeze chance, so they do stay in and go for it. But thankfully, it's -1, so it's not doing a ton. I go into Zorua and just kill this thing from full with a Terra Blast. So, another Zorua kill for us right here, which is awesome. We're unfortunately going to just sack this off to Stunky right here. No reason to keep it. It doesn't actually really do much. Doesn't kill Clink. Speed tie into Grookey and outsped by this. So, I mean, it's done its job up to this point. We're just going to sack it off, get out into our Squirtle, and from here, I believe I do just go ahead and click a really strong Surf, as I'm going to be route really low. It's going to be brought really low into range of another Life Orb hit. So if that Stunky attacks one more time, it's dead. I make a really aggressive play right here, expecting another Sucker Punch, or a pivot out right here, and I'm going to Shell Smash. The reason I think this is a fine play by me, because if they Sucker Punch for some reason to kill me and, like, avoid, like, Aqua Jet, I get up to +2, which is pretty cool, and then I can endure and just win. If they knock off, I die anyways, and if they make an aggressive pivot out, and it's in, like, Grookey on an Aqua Jet, this also covers that. So, I do make that Shell Smash play. I'm going to get it correctly into the Grookey. I know I also don't die to Fake Out from here, even at -1, so this is something to keep in mind, and I am just going to throw off one big Ice Beam into Clink, and afterwards, just Surf and pick it off. There's not much my opponent can really do to stop it, so I'm going to go ahead and click Surf right here. Out comes the Stunky next, but again, this is fine. This is just a double down right here. They're going to die to Life Orb. I die as well, but it also lets me reset tempo, get for free into Growlithe, and secure this game with a nice Flamethrower into the Grookey, as there's nothing it can do to a defensive Growlithe, like, at all. We have one of the better checks in the game. I mean, you see that knockoff to 16% -1, so, yeah, very safe one. We're able to pick that thing off with the Flamethrower, and pick up a nice 3-0 victory, moving ourselves to, I believe that's 2-1 at this point, which is, pretty darn nice. I think the week after this, we were supposed to play chess, but unfortunately they had to forfeit. So we actually moved to 3-1, not this week, but after the next week, and then we go into playing Josh. So let's jump into our week 5 battle. Alrighty, week 5 against Josh, aka Ultra Player. See, again, really scary team. Lots of people draft a lot better than me, and yeah, I won't lie. We have Staryu, Magnemite, Riolu, Dratini, my goat, Natsu, and Hippopotas. Let's look at the team that we brought really quick. We have a Life Orb Zorua. Simple. Shadow Ball, Knockoff, Terra Blast, Shadow Sneak. Knockoff is going to be great for Pokemon like Hippopotas and Magnemite that might want to pivot in on us. We can really do a lot of damage to them with Shadow Ball once they lose their items, or whether it be Berry Juice from Magneton or Eviolite from Hippo. We have an Eviolite mixed variant of Croagunk. There was also Munchlax on this team. There's Sludge Wave, Drain Punch, Vacuum Wave, and Sucker Punch. Pretty simple set. Just strong, offensive, good priority. We have a Berry Juice Sandile with Earthquake, Stealth Rock, Crunch, and Taunt. Pretty simple. Taunt is great for Pokemon like Hippo. And yeah, it's also an Electric Immunity, which is really important, into Magnemite. Also a Prankster Immunity, which is nice into Riolu, allowing us to kind of pivot around that guy a little bit better. And we have Tyrant here with Berry Juice, Rock Blast, Dragon Dance, Earthquake, and Endure with Berry Juice and Sturdy. If we can eliminate that Hippo and break the Sturdy on Magneton, this Pokemon goes absolutely... It goes insane as long as we're not at 1 HP for that E-Speed, which is really cool. Then we have a Choice Scarf Squirtle, Water Spout, Surf, Flip Turn, and Ice Beam. Pretty simple set, actually. I mean, Josh really doesn't have great water resist outside of Staryu, and if we get force damage on that guy, we can pretty easily pick one with Water Spout every time we come in. Then we also have a Scarf Starlink with Double Edge Quick Attack, Brave Bird, and U-Turn. Pretty simple set. Alrighty, that being said, let's go ahead and start the game off. Once again, leading with trusty Sandile. Man, the Sandile line, they might be a new mascot for me at this point. We see a lead Natu, which I'm completely fine with this. I can just go ahead and throw off a big Crunch. Not much switches into Crunch plus Earthquake. The only thing really is Hippo, which I can just taunt the turn after. Either throw my own rocks or Crunch into a Natu coming in, trying to magic bounce rocks back. So I like that a lot. U-turn crit actually kind of helps me a little bit because it's going to put me back to full on my Sandile, getting my Berry Juice back. Out comes Staryu, and I don't have a great pivot into this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot through Croagunk on a water move, potentially, but we see a mid-ground Ice Beam, and then out into Starly on the Psychic, as to not get absolutely blown up. I'm going to go U-turn on my Starly, expecting them to not just sack this guy off or sack a million damage on it, as we do pick off the Natu. Next up, Tyrant's going to come out, or as Josh would think, but I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to hopefully force damage into Hippo. The only thing that really wants to take on Tyrant at this point is going to be the Hippo, or them sacking Berry Juice on Magnemite. So what I am going to do is I am going to go into Zorua, and I'm just going to click Shadow Ball. If this wasn't a Spadef variant, it got 2-hit KO'd, which I thought was really nice. Unfortunately, it looks like it does have a decent amount of Spadef as it Toxics into me. Which is a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world. What I can do this next turn as they slack off up is I can knock off, remove that Eviolite, and then put it in a terrible spot to switch into this move. So we do see the Eviolite get knocked off. Shadow Ball's going to proc here, and I believe I do actually switch out and save this just because it's a fighting immunity, and it hits the team pretty hard, as well as a normal immunity for E-Speed on Dratini. But I'm going to get out into, Sandile, try and get up my own rocks. Unfortunately, we're unable to. Starmie comes out. I'm going to sack off my Zorua as it isn't the most important thing in the world, unfortunately, as I get in my Starly, and thanks to Zorua, despite it not getting a kill, knocking off that item, this is a very easy 2-hit KO. This thing is nice and chipped down, and knocking out this really opens up Tyrant in the back, which is awesome. Out comes Riolu next. I am just going to pivot through Sandile. The only reason this thing comes in is if it is going to click Copycat, and Copycat isn't going to work because it's a Prankster move into my Sandile, so I get a free pivot into this guy as I take it on pretty well. Unfortunately, did lose my fighting immunity, so I'm just going to sack off Starly this next turn. But again, what I'm going to do is bait this thing down to -1 defense. It's also a -2 attack now, which doesn't really matter. I think I still died in most close combats, but regardless, going to be able to throw off a really strong Earthquake because there's no ground immunity. Unfortunately, the Starly's going to come in, live on very low, and get a Berry Juice back to full, but I at least pop that item, so again, putting myself in an okay position. Croagunk's going to come out next. I do just sack it off to get a big Sucker Punch off, put this thing at 58, and we go down here. Just to guarantee put this thing in range of Tyrant right here, as I do end up just clicking Rock Blast. I assume he's going to want to break my Sturdy, and if I Dragon Dance and switch out after, I get nothing out of this, and I really want to trade for the Staryu, because it's probably the biggest threat to my team at this point. So we knock it out right there. Out comes Riolu. I am just going to endure so I can get back to full on this close combat as we do take that hit, endure down at 1 HP, and get back up to full, which is obviously really nice. Next attack's going to come out. Our Sturdy's going to go ahead and proc as we do just throw off a really strong Earthquake at a -2. Riolu's not living that. I am a Tyrant. Out comes Dratini next. It's going to pick me off with an E-Speed. I don't want to let it set up for free though, so I did just Rock Blast. Next up is Squirtle. I'm just going to click a nice and free Ice Beam. It is a 2-hit KO on the Dratini, as we are going to see it go for a Scale Shot and miss. Now, this is pretty unfortunate, depending on what Josh's set was here. If he was adamant, didn't matter. I just E-Speed again. He doesn't kill me unless you think he gets 5 into E-Speed. So, I mean, I guess it took that opportunity away from him. Or he could have won a Speed Tie if he was Jolly. Unfortunate for him, though, he doesn't. And I'm just going to Ice Beam, break this guy's Sturdy, get out into my Sandile, and just click a nice strong Earthquake and pick this thing off in a nice close 1-0 win here against Mr. Josh, aka Ultra Player, giving ourselves another win, moving us to, I believe that's 4-1 at this point. So tough week 2, but we've bounced back and played pretty well. And yeah, let's jump on into week 6. Alright guys, next up we are going up against Firefit, and you can see he has a very scary Hail team, consisting of Galarian Farfetch, Coughing, Toedscruel, Weasel, Munchlax, and Amora. On top of this, he also had the Sand/Alola on the bench. So, really scary Hail thing. Honestly, probably one of the more strong teams in the league, in my personal opinion. So, we definitely have our work cut out for us in this game. Let's go ahead and look and see what we're rocking out with. Once again, my 4 Zorua-Hisui, Shadow Ball, Knock Off, Terra Blast, and Shadow Sneak. Obviously, we don't hit much like super hard with this variant, but if we knock off its Eviolite, Terra Blast still do a chunk, and it's not recovering off that damage unless it's Rest, and that's pretty darn passive, so I'm okay with that. Can't really be Rest Talk plus Curse. Then we have our Tyrant here with Eviolite. Strong draw this week. We are Dragon Claw, Rock Polish, close Combat and Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs is going to allow us to nuke through guards like Farfetch and absolutely, like, you know, do a ton of damage into them. Close Combat is great for the Hail Core plus Munchlax. Psychic Fangs is also incredible into Coughing, and then Dragon Claw is just a nice spammable stab in general. Does a lot to guys like Weasel if we need to. Same thing with Toadschool. Honestly, a great win condition in this game if we find the position to get in. Once again, a defensive Berry Juice Squirtle here with Scald, Flip Turn, Ice Beam, and Rapid Spin. Very physically defensive. Pivots into guys like the Alolan Sandshrew pretty well. As well as Pokemon like Weasel and Munchlax and things of the sort. And that's actually pretty annoying for my opponent to switch into. They don't like the move Scald at all. Then we have Croagunk here with an Eviolite, Vacuum Wave, Sludge Wave, Nasty Plot, and Focus Blast. Really strong Pokemon in this matchup. If we get up a Nasty Plot, there's not much that wants to take us on outside of maybe a Psybeam Coughing. If it's not Psybeam, we can honestly kind of set up on it and do a ton of damage with +2 Focus Blast and Sludge Waves and even +4. And beyond that, not much to take it on. And Vacuum Wave is always going to be a very valuable tool into Hail. We have Voltorb making its debut, Volt Switch, Explosion, Thunderbolt, and Endure with Rocky Helmet Static. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we do not have a Galarian Farfetch'd answer. This is kind of one of them, is to pivot in and maybe Static Helmet it, which is kind of cool, I guess. We can pivot through, like, maybe through Croagunk and then on Brave Bird, get out into Voltorb, which can be kind of nice. Beat a Brave Bird into it, Recoil, Helmet, Static. If we can pair it, it's basically dead, so that's kind of the plan. And then we have a Shuka Berry Growlithe here with Flamethrower, Morning Sun, Blush, and Sunny Day. Sunny Day resets the weather as well as it gives us really nice Morning Suns and strong Flamethrowers. Again, look at my opponent's team. Their fire resists are going to be Munchlax, which we burn, and then Weasel, which we burn and is a Weasel. So, yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the battle. You'll see we are going to go ahead and lead off with our Zorua, disguised as Tyrant. I was hoping that we could catch, what do you call it? Something like a Weezing switching in, catch something like an Amora, hit it for hard damage. Unfortunately, it's going to be a Toadschool lead. We do live a knockoff right here, and I like to just knock off myself, get rid of this thing's item, which is going to be really nice. It's Berry Juice, which makes it significantly easier to deal with, as I can sneak pretty freely, bring it down nice and low to 34, as we do sack off our Zorua. Next up, we get out into Croagunk. I know I could take this thing on and take it out with a Sludge Wave. We do see a Coughing pivot into Scout for that Psybeam. I am going to switch out immediately, but we do just see a Will-O-Wisp, which is completely fine with me. Growlithe is going to come out right here into, more is going to come out right here into our Growlithe. We do 2 into it KO with a Flamethrower, but I don't know if this is Scarf or not. And we are also speed tying a Tivit set, just because of how much defense we need to run for the, Sandshrew and things like that. So we actually do speed tie if it is max speed, and it could be Scar. So in my mind, there's no reason to risk this right now. I am going to go ahead and make that Squirtle pivot, as they do actually end up getting a Brock. So this doesn't rule out the possibility of either, but very aggressive play for my opponent, and it ends up working out pretty well. Right here, Munchlax is going to come out next, as I do Rapid Spin pretty freely. Nothing really blocking that spin, and I can get faster than anything else. I'm going to go ahead and Flip Turn out. Don't want to take a Body Slam for no reason. Pivot into Croagunk, as we see a Seed Bomb, which is actually best case scenario. Really nice for me, actually. I'm going to double out into Growlithe, expecting that Coughing to come back out, as it showed to be the initial pivot into my Croagunk. As it does come out here, I'm going to just go ahead and go for a Flamethrower again. Not many great switch-ins here. Pain Split pops and gets it back up to a healthy amount, but again, we're at least revealing movesets and things like that. Now comes Abomination the Munchlax. I'm just going to go ahead and Will-O-Wisp this guy. Not going to let it set up or anything of the sort. It's going to pop my Shuka Berry, but honestly, that's completely fine. Shuka was kind of here for Toadschool, but mostly just here for that Sandshrew, and it didn't come, so we don't need to worry about keeping that anymore. It's going to go ahead and take this burn. We're just going to go ahead and Morning Sun up, and it's Fixed once, as this Earthquake is not doing very much damage. But we do see a Curse right here, and this is when I need to go ahead and get on out of here. We are going to be able to take an Earthquake because it's burned, and despite being at +1. And from here, just off a strong Focus Blast, knock out this Munchlax. If you want to switch, he could switch, but it's a burned Munchlax at that point. Next up, we are going to go ahead and see the Farfetch come out, and I see this as a pretty free opportunity to get into my Voltorb. Big close combat there, but more than likely we'd see a potential knockoff, a Brave Bird, something of the sort, or not a knockoff. I don't think it killed Croagunk for 19. But regardless, I am going to make the pivot out, and thankfully they go for a quick attack, which gives me a pretty awesome opportunity to bait a burn on this guy, or a Para. We unfortunately don't get it, though. It's a bit unfortunate. I tried and Volt Switch here, and in hindsight, doubling out was probably my play into something like a Croagunk, because then I could Vacuum Wave and put that in range of an Aqua Jet from Squirtle. in case it wanted to, you know, set up anything. But regardless, we're going to have to just go ahead and boom this guy. I don't have a switch into Earth Power at this point. It kind of just kills my whole team. So I do boom with my Voltorb, and I think that's kind of where the misstep in this battle happens, as you'll see. I'm going to go into Squirtle next, as Farfetch'd is going to come out. I'm just going to go ahead and go for a big Scald right here. What do you call it? Firefin makes a really good play at knocking off here. Close combat would have just brought me in juice and brought me back up, whereas knockoff into close combat does kill, and he doesn't take the minus defense. So we do Scald, pop its berry juice, and unfortunately don't get the burn. So we're really missing out on the secondary effects on this Farfetch'd in this battle. Oh well, it happens. We're going to pivot out into Growlithe. Unfortunately, there is a Scrappy in play, and we're just going to go ahead and dive to close combat into quick attack, unfortunately. Out comes Tyrant here, and I know this is a little bit of a psychopath play. They're going to see that I'm Eviolite. I super died to close combat here. I'm kind of bluffing the fact that I am sturdy. I really didn't see another out into this thing. So we went ahead and bluffed that we were. Thankfully, we're able to put this thing in a position where we can knock it out with the Psychic Fangs. Amora is going to come out next, and we do either lose a speed tie or confirm that it is going to be a Scarf variant, which is a bit unfortunate, but what can you do? Out comes Coughing next on our Croagunk. We're going to make a nice double into Squirtle. Really trying the best that we can to put ourselves in a position to win, but really there's nothing our Squirtle can do at this point. We're not Yawn, we're not Smash, there's not really anything that we can do to stop this, and it's Thunderbolt anyway, so it's just going to pick us off, and then Croagunk just doesn't have the damage output. I mean, if we could have damaged this and took this out a little bit earlier, maybe if we didn't have to burn our Tyrant in order to kill the Farfetch'd, maybe if we didn't have to sack our Growlithe, maybe, but I think the fact that I kind of sacked our Voltorb to boom on the Toadstool put us in a position where we could win. And I think that just kind of shows how offensive Little Cup is and how one turn can really just throw your entire game plan off. And he got us there. So unfortunately, we take a loss here in week number 6, I believe it was, moving us to 4-2. One more win will clinch us playoffs, though. So just got to win one more. Alright, again, here we are with week 7/8. So, fun fact, league fell a little bit behind, including your boy. And I played both these games in one night. And I very vividly remember on, I believe, let's see, yeah, they were both played on Sunday, June 2nd. And I very vividly remember Mr. Amel, my goat, helping me out with both of these builds. So big shout outs to Big Amel. If you don't know Amel, I'm sure you do. Go check him out if you haven't. I'll try to remember, leave him in the description. That's my guy. But first, we end up playing Hacker. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the build that me and Amel came up with this in this game. Finally, a non-life orb, Hisui Zorua. We are Choice Scarf this week with Shadow Ball, U-Turn, Shadow Sneak, and Knockoff. Pretty simple. Hacker's team actually does not have a Ghost Resist that he brought. It also helps when webs are up to not have to worry about that. Revenges a ton of his team, and it is really, really strong in this matchup. We also have a Shell Smashing Squirtle with Surf, Ore Sphere, Zen Headbutt, and Shell Smash. I don't quite remember why I'm Zen Headbutt. I think he had Tentacool, and it was coverage for that. Ore Sphere hits the Snover, and Surf hits everything else really, really hard. Then we have a Berry Juicing Tyrant with Rock Blast, Close Combat, Dragon Dance, and Endure. We're Berry Juicing this game. We're just 4 attacks. If we can chip down the Trap Inch, I mean, this guy just wins. There's absolutely nothing for it on Hacker's team. We have a Sandile or Roselli Berry in this game for Dazzling Gleam Abra, as I think that is likely coverage for us instead of Energy Ball, just because we also have Tyrant. So yeah, I think it's, we also have Tyrant, so it just makes sense. We're Earthquake, Crunch, Rock Slide, Stealth Rock. Pretty simple, just 4 attacks. Does a decent amount of damage and can also pivot into guys like the, what do you call it, the Archon. Then we have a Shed Shell Croagunk here. We are Drain Punch, Sucker Punch, Earthquake, Gunk Shot, just 4 attacks. Shed Shell's going to allow us to switch out on the Trap Inch. Otherwise, we're really strong here, and we take on Pokemon like Snover and Voltorb-Hisui pretty decently, and our priority definitely is not bad either. Then lastly, again making its debut, Big Bergmite. We're Ice Clip Sphere, Surf, Rapid Spin, and Bulldoze. Could I tell you why I'm Surf? I honestly don't remember. Hold on, let me do some maneuvering so I don't spoil results. We're gonna go here. I'm gonna click on the dock now. Looking at Hacker's team, he had a Numel. So we totally could catch Numel off guard and kill that guy. Bulldoze was from Galarian Meowth, but you actually see that the team Hacker brought does not have an Ice Resist, which is pretty darn interesting. We are a heavy-duty boot spin set because it also counters if you want to bring Tarantula for webs. We kind of auto-lost if they went up, so it counters that. There's no way of him blocking the spin. And honestly, it's a pretty strong Pokemon offensively in the matchup. Ice plus Water hits his team pretty hard. Ice, Water, Ground, which I guess that's most teams, but in particular, he goes crazy right now. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the battle. We are going to lead off with our Tyrant. That's not Tyrant. That's actually going to be a, what do you call it? That's not Tyrant. It's actually going to be our Hisui Zorua. We're going to switch out just in case of, what did we switch out? I think. I'm actually not sure. Did we lead off with Tyrant on purpose? Regardless, we're going to double out into Bergmite immediately just to stop any sort of shenanigans from occurring. Immediately going to Icicle Spear as the Tarantula is going to switch out. I think we would have killed that thing, to be honest. So that's obviously nice. I'm going to switch out over Bergmite. I'd like to keep the Sturdy on it, even though I can 1v1 this. There's no reason to, because I can always go into Croagunk and exert some pretty crazy offensive pressure. I believe I do just go for a Drain Punch here. It hits the entirety of the team, including Abra, because Abra just dies to Sucker Punch after. So what I can do is I can kind of adjust around him being like a substitute variant. Drain Punch is going to pop, get us back to full. It is going to hit the Archon, which is going to get back to full via its Berry Juice, but we pop that early, which I think is really nice. No matter we don't have Archon switch-ins. We're going to go ahead and make the pivot out into our Standout. As we take on any move this thing wants to go for immediately. It does get a critical hit on Knockoff, which is a bit unfortunate because we do just kind of die to it potentially after this. But thankfully he switches out and I'm going to risk a Speed Tie. We get up our rocks on the Voltorb and I'm going to pivot through Croagunk just because a grass move is kind of telegraphed here. From here, I am just going to click Gunk Shot, do as much damage as humanly possible to this thing, and whatever wants to potentially switch in, like a Tarantula. Unfortunately, Trapinch comes out, but we prepare for that moment. Don't have to worry about staying in due to our Shed Shell, and we're going to pivot out. Squirtle's going to come out on this Trapinch, and I do see this as a free opportunity to set up a Shell Smash. However, the hard Voltorb comes in, and this really tells me that this thing is probably going to be a Choice Scarf variant, because Scarf is going to outspeed our Squirtle. However, I also see it as a means of, okay, he can set up, that's fine, but that gives me free setup with my Tyrant with no hazards up, and I can just DD up and kind of win the game, because once I get up to +2, Trapinch dies from there to a +2 close combat. So, I'm okay with finding out if this thing's Scarf. It is right here, so I don't have to worry about getting T-Waved or Foul Played or anything like that. I'm just going to Dragon Dance here, as Trapinch is going to come out, and no matter what, I get another free DD, even if it faints to break my Sturdy instead. That's fine. I'll just kill it afterwards. I'm going to DD again. Earthquake's going to pop. Get us down to Sturdy. We're going to get back up to full. Nice and easy. And from here, it's the Trapinch show, baby. We're going to click Close Combat. Down goes the Trapinch pretty freely, even if it didn't. We're in an okay spot. No, because it could faint me afterwards. Out comes the... what do you call Archon, trying to bait a close combat, but I click Rock Blast because I'm a man. And I kill this thing. I think he's trying to get me to drop my defenses so that Ice Shard could eventually pick me off. Thankfully, I don't fall for the bait. I am just going to go ahead and click Rock Blast on this turn. We do knock out the Snover as well. So down goes Snover. And then from here, I mean, there's not much my opponent can do. Abra comes out. If it's Sash, I just Rock Blast, 2 hits kills. And there's nothing to happen from here, even if I miss for some reason. Snover actually can clean it up, so can Scarf Zorua, so able to take home a nice and convincing 4 victories, 6 kills for Big Tyrant, and hey, Bergmite, he did the damn thing. We also have another member making their debut in our last game of the season against, I believe it was Cat. Let's jump into that one. Alrighty, our last week of the regular season, again, played the same night as they played Hacker, and we're playing against, I believe it was Cat for this game. They have a pretty scary team. Snivy Ponytail is a tried and true, very solid core. We got guys like Machop, Shellos, who's very annoying, Hatena, and Carvana, who's actually one of my favorite sleeper picks in LC Draft. Like, it's a high tier mom, but it's kind of looked down upon by some. I really like Carvana. I think it's incredibly strong, and very strong in this matchup in particular. That being said, let's go ahead take a look at the team that we're rocking out with in this game. You can see, first up, we have Big Croagunk. Let me go ahead and click. There we go. Big Croagunk here, rocking out with Sludge Wave, or Sludge Bomb, Vacuum Wave, Focus Blast, and Nasty Plot. Pretty solid into this team. It's going to be a great check to the likes of Snivy. Kind of checks Carvana in the sense that we can switch in on its stabs. Got to be careful about Psychic Fangs, but we can Vacuum Wave pick it off pretty comfortably, which is nice. So yeah, definitely a really solid mon here. We have DD, Lumberry, Tyrant with Strong Jaw. We are Rock Blast, Close Combat, Psychic Fangs, and Dragon Dance. Psychic Fangs are going to be great into guys like Eevee, like Machamp. And really outside of that, our coverage does incredibly well here. For Lumberry, because I really expect either Glare Snivy to come into me, or a Will-O-Wisp from the Ponyta. Don't want to be status by either of those, so yeah. Then we got the Amel set of the week. This is a set that Amel really wanted me to run in this game. I'm rocking out with a Trailblaze Bulk Up Facade Synthesis Chespin. Our only time we've brought in Chespin, and it was into the Ponyta matchup, which is pretty hilarious. It also soft checks guys like Carvana, which is pretty dope. But really, it's here to bulk up, Trailblaze, and then when we get burned, if it's not a bulky Eviolite Ponyta, we can just smoke through that guy with a boosted Facade, which is pretty darn funny. So, big ups to Chespin here. Hopefully he'll work. I had to give it a shot. Emil really wanted me to bring it, and we were clutched for playoffs. So of course I gotta oblige my guy. Then we have a Scarf, Moxie, Sandile, Earthquake, Crunch, Stealth Rock, Rock Slide. I mean, if you look at my opponent's team, once the Snivy goes down, there's not a ground resist. Once the Machop goes down, there's not a crunch resist. So there's a real possibility for Moxie Scarf to just clean up in the end game. We have a Focus Athlete Zorua with Shadow Block, Sentry, Shadow Sneak, and Terra Blast. Really just has great coverage across the board and really dents something upon lead. And then we have a Berry Juice Squirtle with Scald, Aqua Jet, Yawn, and Ice Beam. Good coverage overall. We can't really flip turn just because Shellos exist with Storm Drain, but other than that, pretty annoying Pokemon. We Yawn, put things to sleep, and just function as a good pivot into guys like Ponyta, which is always going to be nice. Even guys like Carvana, to be honest. So, yeah, that being said, regular season finale. Let's do it. We are going to go ahead and lead off with our Chespin, which is going to be our Zorua. Again, main idea was like maybe we can bait Ponyta to come in right here into this Carvana lead right here, but unfortunately they do go for a Protect, and I show Terra Blast, which kind of lets him know that I'm a Zorua. So they're probably not going to go Ponyta and give me the damage that I want on that guy. But still, Terra Blast kills this guy, and I'm Sash. And if you want to flip turn out, you don't have a normal resist on this team. So I'm just going to click Terra Blast, and we're going to have a good time. So Crit Crunch does not matter, obviously, because we go down to our Sash. It wouldn't have mattered anyways because we would have died. And Terra Blast just picks this guy off. Plain and simple, easy stuff. Out comes the Ponyta. I can't really go into my Squirtle because the fact that Wild Charge is a pretty free neutral click. Not going to allow that to happen. I go into Squirtle here, and I'm just going to click Yawn into the Shellos. This guy goes to bed. Heck yeah. If not, oh well. I'm going to double into Chespin as Hatenna comes out, and I see I actually take on Hatenna pretty well. So I'm going to start bulking up in this guy's face as we see a Calm Mind from the Hatenna, and I go, uh-oh, we need to put some damage on this thing because it can bulk up pretty quickly and get out of hand. We are going to see a Nuzzle come out, which does slow me down. However, you'll see here that this Facade does a ton of damage to this Hatenna, meaning that we will 1v1 it, and thanks to our speed boost, we do outspeed. Out comes the Ponyta, and we do 91%. Don't get the roll, unfortunately, as we drop to the Flare Blitz as well. So it was so close to working. The Chespin, unfortunately, it doesn't go down that way. Out comes Hatenna. We are just going to Earthquake, pick up a nice little Moxie boost. We are Scarf in the set, and if we're not, we'd be risking a speed tie, so pretty safe Snivy bring out here from Cat as they do click Leaf Storm here. Thankfully, Croagunk lives Leaf Storm into Leaf Storm pretty comfortably as we do drop a big Sludge Bomb, do 54 to Machop, and unfortunately get the poison. Now, when I say unfortunately, I mean, okay, I was kind of trying to hope that something like Shellos would come in, I could bait a poison on that, or maybe even Ponyta if they were feeling crazy. However, this guy coming in and getting poisoned, if it's Guts, is no bueno. I already didn't have a switch, and I definitely don't have a switch in now. So we're kind of relying on hitting a Focus Blast right here to put ourselves in a good spot. Thankfully, we do, and we knock out the Machop. Out comes Pony right here. I do feel comfortable going into Squirtle because I know either High Horsepower or Flare Blitz into Wild Charge shouldn't kill me. Or no, High Horsepower into Wild Charge does kill me. But with Aqua Jet and the recoil that it takes from Wild Charge, it's pretty darn low. I am just going to go ahead and click Crunch right here. Good mid-ground by my opponent, getting out into Shellos instead of going into Snivy, where they likely would have been just 2-hit KO'd in most instances. I am just going to kind of spam Crunch right here to do as much damage as humanly possible, especially as I know I don't die to any one hit that this thing goes for. So I'm just trying to put as much damage on it as humanly possible, as we do get a defense drop eventually here, which is great, and this is going to mean that soon we're going to start 2-hit KO on this guy. A Scald does come out here, brings me down to 95. But again, I'm fine with that. Keeping this guy low is what's going to allow something like Tyrant to come in, set up, and win the game once we get up 1 DD. So, it was very, very committed to keeping that guy low. Ponytail's going to come out next. We do Crunch, pick it off as it goes down right here. We're going to get a Moxie boost. Out comes Shellos. We unfortunately are not going to kill, but again, we're in a spot where we're pretty okay with either Tyrant or Croagunk. I like to go Croagunk right here, just because I know I can pick this off. I know I live any hit from Snivy, and I can just go ahead and hit it with a Sludge Bomb and knock it out from here. So down goes the Snivy, and if it didn't die, I just Sludge Bomb twice, or I Sludge Bomb Vacuum Wave, depending on how much damage it does. But yeah, that is going to be the regular season. We end 6-2. Pretty good stuff. Unfortunately, in round 1, we play against someone that we lost to in the regular season in Firefin. Probably my worst matchup that we've had so far. I don't know about my worst matchup in the league. Maybe somebody else had a really broken team that I didn't have to play. But really scary one, so we'll see how that one goes. Let's jump into it. Alrighty, we have our round 1 game against Firefin. For some reason, I was looking, I don't have this team anymore. I only have the original first team, where I don't have a Starly, and I have a Sandile. I have Sandile in the first matchup? I did not. No, I didn't. I had... What did I have different from this team? Zorua... Wait, no. What is this? And what am I missing? What am I missing? I had Squirtle. I had these three. Growlithe. Oh, we don't have Voltorb this time. So we swapped out Voltorb for Starling. The main reason being, something I noticed in that first matchup is I really struggle with Toedscruel. Could not switch into Toedscruel. I wanted something to switch into that guy. Grabbed pretty decent momentum for me and you turning around. Was decent Eviolite pivot into that Toedscruel. So I wanted something for that. For Eviolite, because I expect to get knocked off anyways and taking less damage from said knockoff. It's really nice switching into that later. But we see there's a Blitz this time. So I think this was legitimately Firefin realizing that, hey, Sandile has a really bad matchup. Don't expect it to come. Slash, I can deal with it really well. Therefore, I'm going to bring my offensive electric. That 6-0s otherwise. And looking at my team, yeah, I have nothing for little Zebby right here. It absolutely smokes me. This is on top of the already rough matchup into Farfetch, into Munchlax, into Coughing, into Toedscruel, into Amora, and into that, what do you call it? That Sandshrew on the bench as well. So maybe the play was to just force on a Sandile for this Blitzel, take off Growlithe, have that as my Intimidate pivot. Who knows? But regardless, let's go ahead and jump on into this one. We do lead off with our Eviolite Starly. I want to lead well into the Toedscruel there. Unfortunately, Blitzel leads, and this is immediately bad. We immediately have to pivot out into this guy as a Volt Switch comes out and does a 26, which is a ton of damage into a Resist Tyrant. Now we can't even play the bluff of being sturdy anymore, and immediately a knockoff is going to come off. Really good knockoff from, what do you call it, Firefin, because in this game I was actually max Fizz Def, and I could live a close combat into a Brave Bird from this guy, but now that I'm knocked off, I'm immediately going to get picked off by a Brave Bird here, and be put in a pretty terrible position. Squirtle's going to go ahead and come out next. I believe I do just throw off a Scald, trying to bait a burn into something. He's nothing again, wants to switch into Scald. Unfortunately, don't get it, but we could flip turn out the next turn, chip it down the Munchlax, which is nice. Out into Growlithe, which we're here to kind of Intimidate pivot on. Keep this thing at neutral as it clicks Curse this turn. We're going to Will-O-Wisp one more time as this thing does get up to +1 here. But again, the burn is really going to kind of neutralize and mitigate that. We're going to pivot out into Tyrant here, expecting some kind of, Zorua, expecting some kind of attack, some kind of coverage move. And from here, I am going to click Knock Off, get rid of this in Eviolite or Berry Juice. It does prove to be Eviolite. Our Life Orb set is going to live the burned hit, just because of the fact that it is, or the +2 hit, just because it is burned. We can throw off a Terra Blast after. Unfortunately, we don't pick up the KO, but we put this thing low enough at, 1 HP to where whatever we bring in next is going to do so. I'm just going to go ahead and click a big Psychic Fangs, knock this guy out. Out comes Toedscruel. We're going to go ahead and pivot out into Starly. And thankfully we can grab a little bit of initiative and momentum with, I believe, a U-turn. Or no, I double out into Squirtle, which is really rough. Again, part of me is really wishing maybe we should have Double Edge. I was expecting an Amora pivot, just because it resists my dual stabs. I guess I could have U-turn there. U-turn would have done a ton to this guy too. I don't think I had U-turn. I think I was like Facade, Quick Attack, Double Edge, Brave Bird or something like that. Maybe I was reached in one of those slots. I'm not 100% sure, but or I might have been Sleep Talk as well for the Toedscruel. Again, it's tough not having the team. I have no idea where it went. But regardless, we're going to pivot out into Growlithe here, hoping we can eat 2 hits. Supercell Slam drops, and that does 52. This is a potential roll, but I believe it was in Firefin's favor. Again, this is just a hard call, I think, of Sandile, or just like a gross, like really big comfortability of like playing into that Pokemon, because I mean this set just 6-0s me. I have a really tough time with it without Sandile, and again, good call. I don't think Sandile was good here, so I don't think it's like a bad bring, as we do see a close combat do a ton to this guy right here. Unfortunately, not knocking it out. If we click Psychic Fangs, hey, maybe we're in a little bit better of a spot, but I think did I need to do that, or should I just Psychic Fangs in the mid-ground? I think it did the most to Toedscruel on the switch-ins. I expected maybe that to be the pivot, but regardless, we're going to pivot into our Squirtle, because we can live 1 close combat and Berry Juice up, unless we get a crit, and that's going to seal it. Now, I don't think we won the game from there. I actually think it was very likely that we lost, but the moment this crit happened, the game was over. Farfetch cleans up from here. There's nothing we can do. We are outsped. We're not Scarf. Down we go. And the same thing with Tyrant. As long as this thing is max speed, not adamant for some reason, there's nothing we can do. And if you guys don't know LC, an LC 5-0 is like getting 8-0 in a regular battle, because it's such an offensive metagame. Very seldom do you see 5-0s and 6-0s. If you 4-0 an LC, it's considered like a 6-0. Like, that's how, like, well you won. So getting 5-0'd is is a tough way to go out. But regardless, I thought this was a fun season. I enjoyed, playing the league. I appreciate Josh and Inverse for having me. I had fun. I like playing Little Cup. I haven't brought any Little Cup to the channel in a while, and that was a crazy stutter. Yeah, I figured you guys might want to check it out this week, where we don't have like a non, draft league battle video. I don't have any discussion videos ready to go or anything like that. So I figured, hey, have some 2-month-old games just for you guys. But yeah, that's gonna be our season in the dojo. Again, I had fun. I appreciate them having me. I don't remember who played in finals. I think it was Inversify versus Granky. So we beat Granky, depending on who won. Yeah, versus Granky. Granky posted the replay, so I'm gonna say Granky won. Firefin lost in Sunday Storm. So pretty good run by us. Team wasn't the greatest on paper, but it was a lot of fun. I love using Zorua, Tyrant, Squirtle, even guys like Croagunk and Growlithe, which I've used before, were a lot of fun. So yeah, appreciate y'all watching. Again, if you enjoyed, drop a sub if you're new. Or if you enjoyed, drop a like. If you're new, drop a sub. There you go. And I'll see you guys next time. Later.